I want to share a story with you. It may be a story that you have heard before, but it is a story from Rabbi Chaim of Lithuania. And it was told that he told this story to his congregation many times. So I take that to mean that this will not be the first time you hear this story from me during my time here. But Rabbi Chaim, what he said is he wanted to know the difference between heaven and hell, which is a whole nother conversation in Judaism about the afterlife that we're not going to get into now. If you want to talk about it, I really suggest our senior educator, Feivel Strauss, who is not here tonight. He would love to talk to you about it, Rabbi Strauss. But he wanted to know the difference between heaven and hell, and so he decided to go visit. He bought a ticket, went to go check him out, and first he went to hell. And what he saw there were table after table, row after row, of the biggest feast you could even imagine in your entire life. I always imagine this. I don't know how many of you have seen the movie Hook. It was a Peter Pan movie starring Robin Williams from my childhood, but they have an imaginary food fight, and then the food becomes like everything they ever wanted. So that's kind of what I imagine this to be. It's every food you ever could have wanted on this table. But everyone seems miserable. Everyone is yelling and arguing, and he notices that each person is holding 6-foot-long spoons. But not only that, their elbows have been straightened so they cannot bend them. So no matter how hard they try, there's absolutely no way for them to get the food in their mouth, save from, just going head first. And Rabbi Chaim thinks this obviously looks miserable. This is terrible. Like, can you imagine having everything you could ever want to eat in front of you and not be able to touch it? It's a Jewish mother's worst nightmare. It's terrible. So he leaves hell and decides he'll check out heaven, assuming it'll be better. And so Rabbi Chaim gets to heaven, and what does he see? He sees table after table, row after row, filled with the greatest feast you could ever imagine. And here, they also have the 6-foot-long spoons, and they have the splints on their arms so their elbows can't bend, but they're happy. They're enjoying conversation. They seem to be full and satisfied. Everyone seems to be in a good mood, just like every family dinner you have. And what he notices is that they are reaching across the table to feed each other. And so that was the difference between heaven and hell. Hell was a place where no one thought about anyone else and only cried and complained about their own problems. And heaven was a place where people decided that they would help each other. And so that is what made it heaven. So I was thinking about this story and thinking about Rabbi Chaim. He wants to really point out that the critical difference lies in the way people treat each other. That's the only difference between heaven and hell. Everything else is the same. And so I've been thinking a lot about how do we then create heaven? Because we're not necessarily thinking about the afterlife, we're thinking about now. Are we doing what we can to create heaven on earth, or are we doing what we can to create hell? And Judaism always asks us, what kind of world am I contributing to? So obviously it's a new year. I've been thinking a lot about my life and my choices, and what it is that I'm doing, and is that more like heaven or hell? And although I feel like a relatively good person, I did become a rabbi, so I feel like there has to be something kind of good in there, that sometimes I put blinders on. Sometimes I choose not to look at the horrible things on Facebook or on the news or even in our own community, because it's easier not to. It's how our brains are wired to really be concerned with ourselves or our family or our community. And so this year I'm hoping that I can challenge myself to not be a person that would have been at the first table, not willing to help anyone else, but someone that would reach out and help each other. And I also wanted to bring this up in the context of tzedakah, because last Shabbat, I wanted to bring this up also because it's a way to plug our Saturday morning minyan, which is happening tomorrow at 10 a.m. I will be there. But last week we had an informal discussion about Maimonides' 8 levels of tzedakah, which is found in our prayer book. And we discussed all of these different ways of giving tzedakah. There's to give before being asked, giving begrudgingly, giving less than one should, giving what one should, but only after being asked, giving without making known one's identity, and so on and so on. There are all these different ways of giving tzedakah. We can study that later if you'd like, but in this conversation, I brought it up as a way of, I realized suddenly that I'm no longer a graduate student, and I now have a salary. Thank you, by the way. But I hadn't thought about my tzedakah plan for this year. And tzedakah is often translated into charity, but it means much more. Tzedakah comes from the word tzedek, which means righteousness, justice. Just like a person who you might call a tzaddik is someone who is just and righteous. But so it doesn't have to be money. But obviously, people are thinking about the season of giving, and with the end of the year, different, taxable deductions. But I found myself realizing that I wasn't taking the time to stop and really consider where I need to give and where are the communities that I need to open my eyes to and realize their struggles. And in order to be righteous, in order to be a tzaddik, we have to give more of ourselves. And I know many of you give a lot of yourselves, so maybe this is just me speaking for me, but I really hope to be more involved and aware of the struggles of others. I don't want to be the person that allows someone else to sit at my table and not be fed. And we're not supposed to feel powerless, even though I feel like that is a really easy way to feel in this world at times. We're supposed to feel powerful. This week we start the book of Exodus, the story that you read at your Passover tables every year. And although it seems hopeless and like the Israelites are powerless at the beginning, it's when they realize that they have power that they make change. And Judaism gives us chance after chance to make better choices, knowing we will always fall short while simultaneously knowing that we will get closer to becoming the best version of ourselves. And even though it's a secular new year, I believe we should embrace any opportunity we can to improve ourselves. But you can do that all the time here at Temple as well, with that is a benefit of Shabbat and prayer and studying Torah and different Jewish holidays. All of them are constantly asking us these questions of, are you the best you can be? As if he knew what I was going to preach about today, Rabbi Greenstein posted a relevant quote to Facebook that some of you may have seen. It was his post he titled 7 Thoughts for the New Year. He said, I once heard it said, those who give must never remember, and those who receive must never forget. It's not what you've got that counts, it's what you give. Find deeper purpose and meaning in 2016 by giving more and getting less. Thank you, Rabbi Greenstein. So our Torah teaches tzedek, tzedek tirdof, tzedek from tzedakah, justice, justice shall you pursue. And I'm hoping in this new year, at least I, and hopefully many of you will join me as we take an active role in making this world more like heaven and a little less like hell. Shabbat shalom.